When you're ready, President
Okay.
Roach.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. So is Toby on?
I'm here.
Hey, Toby, you want to do a roll call, please?
Okay. Tom Roche, of course.
Present.
Anita Tripp.
I'm here.
Todd Tyler. Todd Tyler.
He's here.
He's here.
Unmute.
Here. Joe Carroll. I didn't see Joe sign on.
No.
Chris Miles.
I'm here.
Okay. Ella Collins.
Here.
James Donahue.
Here.
Christina Durkee. And Dan Shields.
So Christina and Dan both contacted me. I will check my messages for Joe. Christina's coaching our volleyball team. When she's done with that, she will jump on. And Dan Shields sent me a message letting me know he's running a little bit late. He's hoping to get into the meeting sometime between now and before it's over. So we'll have to move forward.
We've got 5 present, right? Okay.
I'm counting 6. 1, 2.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't put Joe down. Okay, gotcha.
And everybody should be able to. Can everyone on the outside see the agenda? Did I project it correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Toby, any community comments? Email to you or anything?
Dan, is it open?
I'm going to open it right now. It is now open if there's somebody who'd like to be recognized.
Right now there is nothing in the chat.
We'll give them just a minute.
Okay.
All right, we can jump to that if someone does have something after our favorite portion of the meeting, and that's the recognition of successes. Want to kick us off there, Dan?
Yep, absolutely. So we had some young people recognized, and then we have some high school students as well. And again, we say it every meeting, but certainly the best part of our meetings is inviting these young people in and recognizing them for something that they've done. And it really has been the best part of the meetings here, especially throughout the pandemic, because although we're seeing a lot of students here, the folks that work inside the school district, board members aren't necessarily seeing students like they used to. So we like to have them get on. I know that their teachers are going to let them know we were doing this tonight, so I'm hoping they'll be on. So we'll start out with the first one. And I also I'm going to stop sharing the agenda just for a second. But I also just want to show, I know this isn't the best way, but we do have certificates for all of the students that we're going to recognize tonight. And Mr. Gardner and I, which probably means Mindy and Toby, will make sure the students get their certificates when they're back in school. And if they're full remote students, we make sure they get them as well. So first on the list tonight is Megan Boyer. Megan was published in the Chronicle with her essay on someone she has known for a long time. And she wrote about her mom, Mira Luna. And I don't know if she's on. Megan, if you're on and want to unmute and turn on your camera and just say a few words to the board about your mom, I think that would be fantastic. I haven't looked to see if she's on or not.
She's on. She's on with it. Looks like maybe her dad. Yep.
And if she doesn't want to talk, that's okay too. Miss Smock-Co, any chance you want to talk a little bit about that young lady and her essay?
It looks like she might want to talk. I'm wondering if maybe they're just having concern with their mic.
Hello?
Oh, there you are.
There you are, yes.
I was talking. I was wondering if you could hear.
We can hear you. Tell us a little bit about your essay.
Okay. So I wrote about my mom, and I think she is wonderful because she plays with me all the time, even if she has to go to work. And she does work very hard for me, and she cleans up my desk, and I always make a big mess. It's true, though.
Good.
And okay. And she is very wonderful, and she cuddles me a lot, especially during the weekends, and I love it.
Good for you.
And she's just so lovable to me. And she gives me toys like every time I go out with her, like pretty much every time.
And you earn them though.
Yeah.
You're a good girl.
Good job.
Mr. Roche, did you want to make a comment back?
No, congratulations. That's awesome. It's great to hear about your fantastic mom. So great job.
Thank you.
Excellent. And thank you for being on time. We'll make sure you get your certificate.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then next up is Emily Gardner. She was also published in the Chronicle with her essay on someone she has known for a long time. And Emily chose to write about her mom, Sarah. So we had two young ladies writing about their moms. Emily, are you on? And if you're on, you can go ahead and unmute. And we'd like to hear just a little about their essay.
I'm
What?
here. I wrote about my mom because she is also very nice to me. She cares for me, and she is a single mom right now. She is always the best, and she does very nice things. Even though she works, I even love her, even if I barely can see her.
Awesome.
That's great.
Very, very kind words about your mom. That's fantastic. Moms are great. So we'll make sure there's mom right there. So we'll make sure we have a certificate for you as well, and we'll make sure that you get it. But congratulations to you for being in the Chronicle. Getting in the newspaper doesn't happen every day, so enjoy it. Enjoy the limelight.
Great
You know,
job.
if Jess Smotko or Stephanie Bruce wanted to talk about those students and their writing, and if you don't want to, ladies, I understand, but I certainly want to recognize the students' teachers as well for making sure they had the opportunity to submit the writing to the Chronicle, so they could be recognized by the Chronicle and then recognized again by us this evening. Because I can tell you, as a young person, writing was not my favorite thing to do. So anything we can do to help students want to write is fantastic. If not, I'll move on.
I will say something. We're just really proud of all the work that the third graders are doing, and the girls did a great job, and we're glad that they were picked to be in the Chronicle. They deserved it. And I think Jess just unmuted as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Steph. Great job.
Just echoing what Mrs. Bruce just said, all of the kids are working really hard on their writing skills. Emily is a great third grade writer. She's very creative and a great artist. She loves spending time in the kitchen with her mom, cooking, crafting, and making some baked goods. And Megan is also a very enthusiastic writer. She loves to tell us about her travels to the Philippines and also share lots of stories about her crafting on the weekend. So we've got some creative kiddos coming up the ranks here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess, and congratulations, and thanks for your work. So you gave me a perfect segue. You said artistic kiddos. And so the next group that we are recognizing are students that were selected to be published in the 2021 Talent Unlimited Journal. And I'm certain Nicole Schilling is on here tonight. I thought she might have got kicked off, but I'm hoping she's back on. But we had 6 total pieces selected this year, which sets a new record for her and her time here at Fort Edward, maybe forever. But I don't have the records back before Nicole Schilling, and probably neither does she. But we want to recognize, and we have certificates for all these students as well. And thanks to Toby for the certificates. When I put pictures of all the artwork in the board folder, as well as the 2 articles that were in the Chronicle, so you have them all there to take a look at. And they were posted on our social media, the 2 Chronicle ones. And I know that we're working to get the pictures of the artwork of the students we're going to recognize here next on our website as well. So that'll be coming out publicly for folks to see. And then the journal gets published, and I usually share that at a board meeting in hard copy. Maybe sometime when we're back in the same room with each other, we'll continue to do that tradition as well. So for selected art, Movements of the World by Caden Carter. Caden, I don't know if you're on and would like to speak about your work. I see you are on. I can see you there in the list. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. We want to give you an opportunity. But congratulations on being selected. That is not an easy thing to do. And I'll move down the list. At Your Fingertips by Benjamin Colvin. Manipulation by Rachel Diaz. Untitled by Miranda Sardina. Be Brave by Brody Sullivan. And then Butterfly Man in Charcoal by Sophia White. And if any of those students are on and want to speak to their artwork, we'd be happy to give you the floor to speak to it. And if not, Miss Schilling, if you're on there, if you don't mind saying a few words. Okay, well, congratulations to all those students. Nobody wants to talk out of that group, and that's fine. We wanted to let you know that your hard work did not go unnoticed, and we'll make sure you get your certificates as well. And like I said, we'll have that out on our website and out through our social media. If it hasn't already gone, I know it's probably going to be today or the next day or two getting that out there. So
yeah, it's definitely worth taking a look at that artwork. It is so impressive. I'm so proud of these students. They did a fantastic job. It's really, really incredible. Everyone should take a look at that stuff.
Excellent. So we're going to move on. I'm going to put the agenda back up. And I'll turn it back over to Tom.
Okay. All right, we have a presentation that will occur. Okay, so we're not going to do that. All right, let's go to reports. Finance Committee met this evening, as we usually do before each board meeting. Did anyone want to sum up that meeting for anyone?
If you folks, I won't.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's open to the public again. It happens before every board meeting. We did talk about the budget and the different funding that came in recently. We took a look again at the report card and reviewed our treasurer's reports and different types of reports. So we'll be voting later on the budget. Okay. So the next thing of note would be that we need to sit.
Tom, Dan, why don't you say your last message right before we left in terms of the budget? I think that was a great quote that summarized, the budget review about reducing taxes.
Yeah, and absolutely. So the proposed budget that the board will be voting to put in front of the taxpayers tonight reduces spending, reduces taxes, and restores programs that our students need. They're not wants, they are needs. So again, reduces spending overall, reduces taxes, and restores programs that our students need to be successful here in school and beyond school in life.
Thank you. I think that's important.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll probably say that a couple of times this meeting to talk about the budget, but yeah, it's a good message. Policy committee meeting, need to set one for April and May. Is that correct? It must be set.
Yep, that is correct. So I was going to ask that Toby put out some dates that work for her because she's going to be an important part of that process. And we want to make sure. So I was going to ask that maybe Toby look at her calendar, put out some dates to the policy committee that will work for her for an evening so that we can expedite that process, because there's a bunch that has to be done in the next month or two to finalize that policy manual audit that we received from Erie BOCES. And moving on to athletic committee, same thing. I'm going to ask that Mr. Gardner send out some dates that work for him for the athletic committee, because normally our high school principal would be taking on the role for those meetings. And it'd be more of a general type meeting than the last one we had to have, which was about a very specific topic that people were concerned about. So that's what I had for meetings you need to have in the next month or two. You definitely want to get those meetings on the books and scheduled.
Okay, thank you. And next up is the superintendent report.
So you know what I think we should do? I'd like to ask the board to indulge and move the discussion items to the top, because we do have some guests on here, and although I know they're happy to be here for as long as we need them, I also know that time is a valuable resource for all of us, and I wanted to maybe have that discussion, at least the first discussion item about superintendent search. So then if our guests have to be someplace else, they can do so, and we can move on with our meeting.
Yeah, let's do it.
So at this point, the board had asked me to invite District Superintendent James Dexter to the meeting, and I believe that Assistant Superintendent Anthony Muller is on as well. So you guys get to watch me run one of these meetings where you're usually having to run them, and I'm just kind of participating. So I hope I did okay. But I'll turn it over, and it's a very important discussion. As you all know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but finding a person who can come to Fort Edward and work really well with the board and work really well with all of the employees and with the community to keep moving the district forward is the most important work that you can do when it comes to leadership. So I'll be quiet after this and turn it over to Jim and Tony and the board to have the discussion and let it lead where it may.
Thanks, Dan.
Tom, did you want me to just start, or did you want to?
Please, sir. Yes, I appreciate the materials, and please, you can begin.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. As Dan said, my name is James Dexter, and I'm privileged to be the district superintendent of the Washington, Saratoga, Warren, Hamilton, Essex BOCES. I know I've worked with some of you before on previous items. It's hard to believe Dan had the years do go by since the last search, and of course I've seen you in other situations, but that was the last significant piece of work we did together. So I did have with me today is Tony Muller. Some of you will remember Tony, who works with me on search items, does a good amount of the work with me. What we wanted to do tonight is spend a little time talking about the search. I had a conversation with Dan last week, and then I had a brief conversation with Tom. It's my understanding that you would want to consider an interim superintendent for the time being as you work through the projects you have, and particularly the merger study. So Dan asked me when he first started off, he goes, do you think we have enough time? And my point was, I think you have plenty of time to do an interim search. Obviously, an interim search is much different than a permanent search, which usually takes several months and has a number of steps. And what I did is I tried to think through what would be the things that would be most pertinent for your review, and I put together some materials. I think you may have seen them in advance. And I don't know, Dan, if we can put some of them up on the screen as we go through. I can kind of point them through you. But if we could, I would like to put up the agenda and just kind of show the public, at least as far as what are the things that I brought forth to the board and for their consideration as we move forward.
I just need a second to get the correct folder, and then I can show anything you'd like me to.
Super. I'll also say to the board, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to stop me. I know that this is there's a lot to this, and I'm sure you're thinking about a lot of things that are going to affect yourself, your board, and your community. So I'm happy to stop at any time, provide more clarification, or answer any questions that anyone has.
I just want to say, Jim and Tony, you guys did a heck of a job on the last one for us. I can tell you that. Well, so no denying your record with us for sure.
Well, I'll always say, of course, as our role is all about process, and the idea is that there's a good process so the board can make all the decisions. So I'll give you the credit because you're the ones who made every single decision during the process. Did you find the agenda by any chance, Dan?
Was it? Oh, this wasn't the search process. Sorry.
That's going to be the third document I need. It's
yeah, I found it. Sorry, there it is.
Okay. So what I brought to you tonight is so what I thought, of course, we'd be talking about some options regarding the selection of interim superintendent. My goal is to go through these materials, kind of explain what they are, my thinking on some of the timeline issues, and then see if what I brought to you kind of makes sense, and then we can kind of think about moving forward if they do. Then the next document, and I'll have Dan bring this up in a few minutes, but is a recommended characteristics for interim superintendents. What I will say is there are people out there who be interested in being an interim superintendent. For the most part, most boards choose individuals who are retired, who are certified, and who have a good body of knowledge and who are still current. There's a couple reasons why boards will sometimes do that. The first is you do have to have the right certification, and usually people who have experience who are willing to give it are looking for if they're retired, they're looking for more of a short-term period. There'd be nothing that would stop you from hiring somebody who is not retired. The advantage of hiring somebody who's retired, of course, is usually you get their number of years of experience, and the board does not have to pay into the TRS system and traditionally does not have to pay benefits. So the only thing you're paying is usually a per diem salary. And if it's a long-term agreement, often there's some vacation, some consideration vacation, maybe a few sick days, but it's not like a full contract. I'll talk a little bit about the contracts later, but it also allows you to be in a position where you can have basically a 30-day notice on either party's consideration if it's not a good match between the district and the individual. So there are advantages sometimes to find somebody who has a tremendous amount of experience. So I put together these characteristics, and I think they'll make sense when you read to them, and I'll bring them up in a few moments. Then the next thing I put together is kind of a draft timeline of if the board wants to move forward, what some of the steps you may want to consider and some of the timing for those steps. I brought a sample posting. Often, but not always, a board will advertise the position for superintendent, interim superintendent. I'm going to recommend in this case, it might not be a bad idea to advertise the position first. It's always good for from a transparency perspective. But in this case, it's a little different. Often interim positions are somebody stepping into just the role of superintendent. So I have people who have said to me through the years, if you have any interim openings and a board wants to talk to me, please let me know and I'll be happy to talk to them. But in this case, Dan, because of the administrative structure, Dan does a heck of a lot more than just superintendent duties. So he's not only very hands-on with the superintendent duties, but he does a lot of the other things. And I think by posting it, and it doesn't have to be an expensive posting, but by posting it, it gives potential candidates a real eye into the work of this superintendent. And what I've learned through the years is every district is different. Every district has its own unique characteristics, and every superintendent's position is a little bit different. But I would say this one is a little bit different than some of the others, in as much as Dan is very hands-on on so many things, financial, supporting the principal, and just involved in just any number of things. So I think having the posting would be a good thing to help potential candidates, because like any superintendent search, whether it's interim or regular, there's really three parts of the equation. The first thing is, are they qualified? The second thing is, do they have the relevant experiences to meet your needs? And the third part, of course, are they a good fit for the community? I also brought, I won't spend a lot of time on but I brought some typical contract terms for interim superintendents. And you're going to see that the interim superintendent contract is pretty short. Matter of fact, it really comes down to 2 or 3 paragraphs. There is some legal gobbledygook in there, but it's not a long contract. And there's a couple elements. Usually the board has a per day or per diem rate that they're going to pay the superintendent. They usually have a clause for if it doesn't work out. So usually there's a 30-day window for either party should it not work out. So either party could notify the others and that relationship would end in 30 days. And the last piece is any other terms and conditions that are negotiated. Of course, you do have things like that are required indemnification and some of the specifics about some things required by the Commissioner of Education, but the contracts are very short. And as I mentioned, if it's a long term, a year, sometimes there are some considerations for a few paid days off and some sick days, but that's up to the board. And then the last thing I have is development of a candidate profile. And as I mentioned before, the posting would be hopeful, but I think it would be great for the board, and I would work on this with Dan and then give you a draft, is an actual profile of what you want this interim superintendent to do on a daily basis. So the idea is when you hire, you're not just hiring a person, you're hiring a person against a set of criteria that you've developed. And I think that would be a good step. So what I'd like to do is take a step back, and then Dan, if you could bring up the recommended characteristics of interim superintendents, that would be great. A few years ago, a board said to me, what should we be looking for in an interim superintendent? So I did a little research. Of course, I looked at my own experience of what I'd seen successful interim superintendents do. And as I don't really want to read through every one of these, but I do think it gives you a sense of, generally you're looking for somebody who's experienced, who's not learning on the job, who can jump in day one and be successful. As you know, being a superintendent, you wear a lot of hats, you're required to do many things. And when you're in there for the interim, it's helpful to have somebody who's experienced. And of course, you're also involved in the middle of a merger study, which makes it even more complex than the average superintendency. A lot of times people will say being a superintendent in a large district is harder than being a superintendent in a small district. I've never bought that. I always say being a superintendent anywhere is difficult. So for example, in a small district, you might be the one who's writing the consolidated grant applications, and which are your title monies. In a larger district, that would never be the case. In a smaller district, so in a small district, you got to have people who really know how to do things. But as you can see, so the first thing is that having successful experience as an interim is a consideration, not the only consideration, but and sometimes boards say we want somebody who's been down this path before. Having a strong understanding of school finance is critical. This is not where you want somebody learning on the job saying 6 months from now I'll understand it, particularly with Dan's role. Dan has a very, very strong understanding of finance. Understanding how to be the face of the organization and being the public. And that, once again, Dan does a lot of stuff in social media. He does a lot of things as far as being the face of the organization. Obviously, you need very strong communication skills. So having somebody come in who has some experience is a good thing. And then a lot of times boards will use this as an opportunity, and you want somebody who's been around and can analyze the district. This may or may not be relevant to what you need, but often boards will say, we want the interim to come in, give us some objective feedback on our district and what we're doing well and where are some opportunities for growth. Obviously, you want somebody who is honest and candid, has their loyalty to the board. And you want somebody who can come in and be very honest and open about what they're seeing and their recommendations for the board and the future of the district. You want somebody who can step in day one, who has experience with collective bargaining. It's people think that collective bargaining is all about what happens at the table, and yes, that's important. But so is requests that maybe a union might make. And if an interim makes a decision, it can bind the district for many years. So you want to make sure you have somebody who understands all of those implications. Obviously, you want somebody who understands quality instruction. And then you obviously want somebody of unquestionable ethics. So when people ask me what are the characteristics you might look for in an interim, those would be the ones that would come out right away to me. All right, if we could come up with a draft timeline of the search, that would be great. So I tried to boil down what are the essential steps that a board may wish to take in doing a search for an interim. As I mentioned before, typically this looks very different than a permanent superintendent, but you'll see some similarities as well. So as I mentioned, so we're meeting tonight. My recommended next step would be that we actually work and try to develop not just the posting, but an actual profile for the interim superintendent. So when you are hiring, you'll have something to hire against. But more importantly, when this is posted on the web, people who are thinking of applying for the job will know exactly the types of things that you're going to be asking this person to do. What we typically do is develop a draft and then get it to the board for your considerations, edits or changes, or finally approval. So we never post anything or do anything without the board saying, yes, that's accurate. These dates are very tentative, so I just want to throw that in there. And the dates that are highlighted in yellow are dates that the board would have to be in attendance. So the next thing is posting. So I think if we were to develop the profile for the interim, we could probably get that done by the end of the month, maybe a little quicker actually, depending on getting the information we need. We could post the interim position around May 3rd. The posting would be mostly digital, except I would recommend one service. I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a bit. None of them are expensive at all, just to get the word out about the posting. So we post it on your website, our website, and then I would send that out to groups of people that I'm aware of and some other folks. Then we'd have a due date just like anything else, and people would submit letters of interest if they if they're interested in the position. I will say, there is a group of people who like to do interim work, but you're not going to get 50 applicants. That's just not the way the retiree market works. But you'll get some folks who are interested in doing that work. And I'll just reiterate for the public and for the board, as we always said, is there's never any secret. So anything I get, the board will see. Any completed application. Well, in this case, there's not an application. You're looking for letters of interest. And then what I would propose is that I meet with the board in executive session at some point during the week of May 24th, so you can review applicants, select candidates that you want to interview, and then we would work on some question topics for you as well. But I would also say that in an interview for an interim, you should expect that you can ask any question as long as it's constitutionally appropriate and go as deep as you need to. So we wouldn't just say 10 questions and 15 or 10 questions or 15 questions. That we'd really want you to have an opportunity to have an in-depth interview with the candidates. And I would suggest that, I don't have an exact date, I'd have to work with you on that, but at some point in June 2021, you would have the candidates. The nice thing about a retiree, if you select a retiree, which is what I would recommend, is you don't have to wait for somebody to give 60 days notice or 90 days notice from their current, usually if they say they're available, then they would be available July 1. So that's the steps that I would recommend the board take to identify and select an interim. And then if I could, can we go to the posting, Dan, advertising grid? And I may have been out of order with that one thing, but I always keep a list of where in journals and where superintendents look for work. Most interims are not out there reading Education Week, or they're not reading journals per se, but I would recommend, we can do it shorter period, but the New York State Council of School Superintendents has a pretty good web-based service, and I'd recommend that the board post the interim position at the NISCUS. They have a pretty active job site, and some people who are interested in interim position do keep their name on there. And what it does is once a job is posted, it will flag it and it will send out notifications to people who might be interested. So it's just one way to get out the word. And as you'll see, that's a $250 charge. However, that is aidable through the BOCES. So obviously you'll get a fairly good percentage of that back. I would not necessarily recommend the need to go out to the Times Union or many of the other services. I just think that for an interim position, I'm not sure that's necessary. And then if we could bring up the posting itself, and this is a sample we did from Mechanicville. And what we usually do is we work with the board to put together a posting that would go on, like I said, on the site and be put on the NISCUS website. And what we would do in this case is we would develop the posting and we would link in the candidate profile as well, so that prospective candidates can actually not only see the posting and learn a little bit more about the community. More likely for an interim, they're going to be more close to this area anyways. It's not like we're doing a national search for this, but also we would, like I said, we would link in the candidate profile so that they can really get a sense of what the job is. And the reason I think that is so important is, as I said before, Dan does a lot of things that your average superintendent doesn't. And I think it's important that you don't attract a candidate who all of a sudden says, I haven't written a consolidation grant in 20 years. You're going to have to hire somebody to do that. You need somebody who has the skills to jump right in and do whatever is going to be needed. Because I know how much Dan does on a daily basis, and it's more than just organizational leadership. He does day-to-day leadership as well. That is sometimes building leadership, or sometimes would be a staff level leadership. And because of your size and your staffing structure, you just don't want to end up with somebody who says, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I haven't done that in 25 years. So that's why I think it's so important. And I mentioned already the terms and conditions. I put those in your folder. I don't know if there's a need to necessarily go through those in detail. Like I said, they're only a couple pages long, right. And they're mostly just boilerplate language with those 2 or 3 clauses that I mentioned before. It really is much, much different than a contract for a superintendent, which has certain legal implications. And also, like for a new superintendent who's not an interim, you have to have a minimum of 3 years, maximum of 5 years. There was none of those requirements for an interim apply. So I went through a lot of stuff quickly. I'm hoping not too quickly, but what I'm looking to do is answer any questions that the board may have, and then subsequently decide if you want to move forward with this type of a schedule.
Well, it looks good to me, and I welcome board members to speak on this. I guess I imagine we should get a committee together to kind of prepare the profile and the other documents that you need to get ready for that.
That's up to you. If you wish, we could work on drafts and then send it to the full board or a subcommittee or whatever makes sense for you.
Okay, I'll leave it up to my fellow members if they wanted to set up a committee, have a meeting, and talk about this, or just work on drafts that are sent to us. Todd, do you have any feeling on this?
No, I definitely would become involved. I was involved with the last one we had too, not only Mr. Ward, but the previous one that we've had. To get us through, but and I've worked, went through, definitely workshops and all these kind of things. So I think looking at your timeline, it starts on the July 1st, which is when we're losing Dan, and working backwards to today. So I think it's a tight schedule. And I think based on how you have it here, I think it's a great schedule for us to try to stick to. I think, again, the hardest thing that I think they're going to look for us to do is to come up with that profile of what we're really looking for, since I think it is really unique to Fort Edward based on the number of things that Dan has done for us, as well as, what they're going to be involved in terms of this whole merger study. So I have confidence in our group here.
And we will need your input definitely on that, whether it's a subcommittee or the full board, because obviously Tony and I, we don't know your district. Like, you guys know what you need. We couldn't make that list.
I want to piggyback on what Todd said a little bit too, because of the timeline. I think that if you can give us draft copies of of the qualifications and what we're looking for, so we can go through them and add and take away what we need, I think that would be the most helpful.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, I also think that because this is so important, we should do this as a full board. Yeah, that way everybody is aware of everything and we're involved every step of the way. So
yeah, no, I get it. I mean, that's the perfect world. We just got to get us all together in the tight schedule. So we'll set a meeting for that, and then those board members that can attend will be invited to attend. So
that would be great, because we need to listen to what you guys have to say. We could also have you, if people have things they want to get to us, I'm sure Dan can facilitate that if you have thoughts and those type of things. But the profiles, we're going to need a majority, we're going to need your help because obviously Dan can be of assistance too because Dan knows what Dan does, but ultimately the board is the one making the hiring, so you want to make sure you have this put together from your own perspective as well.
I agree with Chris too. We need to have as many board members there as possible. I've been through the process too. When I was a principal, we went through it, but it's a painstaking process and it needs a lot of minds focused on one thing. So the more we have, the better.
Yeah, James, currently it seems like there's been many in the area. And from your point of view, there's probably a lot of qualified candidates really locally. The one thing that I'd like to see is someone that's really knowledgeable, not to just the small district like Fort Edward, but also, the unique situations that we're in. But are you confident that, again, there's a pretty large pool? I know you said you're not going to get 50 candidates, but we're going to get some candidates for this.
I think there's a pool out there. I can't speak to how large it's going to be, but usually there's a group of people who still want to work after they're retired and feel they have something to give. And I think if you speak to most of the boards or all of the boards who've hired interims, they generally say it's been a positive for the district. And there's things that are not as good. For example, you're usually not working on as many long-term initiatives, but you're really doing an analysis of your current situation. And that's where I think the boards sometimes find them to be helpful. Your situation is a little bit different with the merger study, but that will bring its own challenges.
Okay. We actually have, it's cutting it too close. I was looking at the BOCE's vote meeting that we have coming up, but that's the day before you're looking for that information. So Dan, we may have to send out a doodle to our members and try to come up with a date that works for everyone. It's going to have to be though, the end of this, it's going to be this week sometime, I imagine, right? Looking at your timeline.
This week or early next week would work fine. I mean, the timeline is very drafty. The goal of the timeline was to make sure we could get there, but if it varies by a few days, particularly in the front end, I'm not too concerned about it. What I do want to try to do is make sure we try to meet that. I think you want to get the posting out and have a few weeks for people to reply and look at the information. So if I had a recommendation, it's not so much what happens before May 3rd, but trying to make sure we get it done before May 3rd.
So does the 27th work? And we have a mandatory meeting that day regarding the BOCE's vote. That seems like a day that we're going to be here anyway. Do we want to add that to the agenda for that evening?
Does that work for you? The BOCE's vote are you tied up, Jim and Tony? I just want to make sure we
not necessarily. Just looking at believe it or not, it's so different than when I was a school superintendent. Where you had to be at the gymnasium and count the votes. They come in by fax and by email. So I think, at least for myself, I'm free that evening. I don't know about Tony, and I'll need his help with all this too, but I don't know.
Yeah, the 27th works for me also.
Okay, because I was going to say we can do our work. We can work with whatever draft documents you have to us. We can do our work in building the profile, get it to you guys, and then we can go from there. So I didn't mean to occupy you on your big evening.
There's really no big evening. I can assure you, because some of the boards meet at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So there's no problem with that at all. And what we could try to do is get a format out to you so you could type stuff in, and then you at least can all think of your own notes, and then obviously that would be a good opportunity for you, based on your own reflections, then to put together a common document. And I think that timing would work great.
It works for me. Does it work for everyone else, or would you rather do it a little earlier, like the end of this week?
I'm good with the 27th.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with the 27th.
Sounds good.
27th is good.
Perfect. All right. So there it is in stone.
So I apologize. The first thing I had to do was do a homework assignment, but I'll work with Dan on the time, and then Tony and I will work together to try to get a profile template to you, so that you can all be using the same kind of document in the next few days, so you can start thinking about what's going to be important to you.
Perfect.
Are there, beyond the development of the profile, does the timeline, I know you just got it Friday, and we can certainly tweak it, and we'd have to find a date for interviews and those type of things. But is there anything there that you say, I'd like to include X, Y, or Z, or is this necessary? Or are there any question, anything such as that? There's not many steps, so probably not taking away too many, but just curious to see if you have anything that or thoughts you have about the schedule itself.
I, for one, I agree with your thoughts on the posting. I think that's the most efficient way to do it at this point. I don't think we have to, put it to the Times Union or any other articles. I think it can go out the way it's going out. I am interested to see the folks that are going to apply for this. I can't wait to kind of go through the process. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect. It's different every time, depending on the district. One of the things that I will need to, so often it's a little bit backwards from a superintendent search as far as the board usually doesn't establish the rate right off the bat. A lot of times the board will ask prospective candidates, if we select you as our interim, what would you be looking for on a per diem basis? But I do think we should probably have a discussion at a later time to make sure we understand where your rails are on that. As I mentioned, you would not be paying benefits for retirees, so you wouldn't be paying health insurance, any kind of other benefits. You wouldn't be paying the percentage to the New York State Teachers Retirement System. The only thing you pay is the per diem, whatever that amount is. And then the board would be required to pay FICA because that's required. But otherwise than that, that would be your only benefits. With the exception, like I said, if it's a long-term, year-long thing, somebody may say, hey, I'd like to see if I can negotiate a few vacation days and maybe a few sick days or a couple personal days. That's not unheard of, something like that. And usually it's like on a per month basis, like 2 vacation days a month or 1 vacation, and that would be up to the board's consideration, but that's all you're paying. You're not paying those other costs, which do add up quite a bit. So when you think about it that way, sometimes it's a little bit of a money savings depending on the salary of the person who's leaving.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to discuss that. Every time we've had any positional situation where we've gone out for candidates, we've had our top and our bottom window. So we'll probably operate in a similar fashion with this. So we'll discuss that.
So I sent the invite out for that day. I added Mr. Dexter and Mr. Mueller to it. So it's already in an inbox near you. And I made the meeting longer than the 30 minutes we had put in. I made it an hour and a half. Not that you'll necessarily need all of that, but I wanted to make sure people had an accurate time frame. Does that's a public meeting? That won't be executive session material, or will it be? I just want to know about posting our links and such.
There may be a portion just regarding contractual end of it, but I think most of it's going to be done public. I don't even know if there's a need for an exec because we're just doing the posting, right? So.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the salary, if you want to get some thoughts, that would be best. You would obviously you never negotiate in public, so that would be probably some. If you want to do it that night, that would probably be most appropriate for an executive portion.
Yeah, so I would leave it open to the possibility of an exec at the end.
Just want to get the links out the right way.
Gotcha.
Are there any other questions about what I presented, the timeline? It's a big chore, but I think if we stick to the timeline and everyone's willing to roll up their sleeves a little bit, which you obviously are, I think you'll get there and you'll get the right person.
Yeah. We really appreciate you being here, James, and explaining this the materials that you had sent, and it's much better to hear it than just read it on the page. So I appreciate you guys taking the time, you and Tony. And like I said before, you guys have always been fantastic. Whenever it's come down to anything where we've needed BOCES to step up, you guys have been amazing. So thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. And Google Documents work for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Good, because that'll make it easier for sharing, get some information out prior to.
Perfect.
And that sounds great. And we'll make sure, we'll be asking Dan to chime in on some things so we get a better idea of, how he spends his time. Will help us frame it. Unless there's any other questions, we're all set with this portion of the agenda, and we'll head off unless there's anything else you need from us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
See you again.
It's truly our pleasure.
So
Want to stick with discussion items and finish that off and then go back up, or how do you want to do it?
I'll do whatever you would like. I work at the pleasure of the board. I can do mine very quickly.
Okay, good.
So the only update on the merger study is that the April 12th meeting was postponed to June 14th. The board was made aware of that information previously, so just wanted to make sure you had that out there. We also changed it on our front sign. It was also changed on the shared website. So wanted you to have that. BOCES Connection newsletter was in the packet. I wanted to draw your attention to it. They put that out each and every year, and usually I'm handing out those nice glossy copies to all of you, but wanted to make sure that you see the programs that they're providing to the students in our BOCES, including the students here at Fort Edward. And if you weren't at their annual meeting, they also highlighted a program that occurs right here at Fort Edward, the high school Bears program, in the video that they showed. Not necessarily in that newsletter, but they had about an 8-minute video that highlighted several of the young people in that program here at Fort Edward. So we have the special meeting. We just changed that to be a little bit longer, but we kept it for April 27th. We'll start at 5:30. The invite went out for that a while back. As I said, I added Mr. Dexter and Mr. Mueller to that as far as invites. New York State and Fort Edward budget update. We provided that in the Finance Committee meeting, but I do want to say it. I'm going to say it this time for certain. The New York State budget that came out did not provide as much additional foundation aid as we thought. It provided some, but it also took away the federal funding that we thought was going to be included in the state budget. And it moved that federal funding into a separate category, the F fund, right, Charlene? That's where all our grants live and exist. Right now, we can't expend that money. We're starting to plan on how to do so, but the rules of how to spend that money, the precise rules have not been released yet. So there'll be a plan that Charlene and I will have to work on together, along with some direction from the board and the leadership team, and all the way down through the programmatic folks with our teachers to put some programs together and some ideas together. But the time frame will be short. But I want to give this Cliff Notes version of our budget. Our budget reduces spending. Our budget reduces the tax paid by the taxpayer. And the budget restores programs that our children need to be successful in school and to be successful in life. I'm extremely proud of the work that everybody's done in the last year. Extremely proud of the budget work that we've done this year. Extremely proud of all the employee groups that were willing to do give backs last year. And I'm proud of the way the community's come together for our students by providing things we couldn't provide through our budget this year. So I wanted to put that out there. But again, our budget reduces overall spending, reduces taxes for the taxpayer, and restores programs that our children need. Not stuff that we want, stuff that we need. So I just want to make sure I say that very clearly for everyone. Moving down to Fort Edward summer programming, that's where we're hoping to be able to spend some of those federal funds for some rescue learning and/or enrichment programs. We are having some conversations about those, but right now we're waiting on the release of the exact rules for spending those funds. They definitely do earmark some for recovery learning, not the exact term they use, but we feel like we'll be able to offer that program. And we're hoping to offer breakfast and lunch at our summer programming when we're able to get it off the ground this summer. Our budget hearing is May 10th at 6 p.m. We'll have our regular meeting right after. Budget vote May 18th in person, 12 to 8 p.m. in the main lobby. And if you need an absentee ballot, you can contact Mrs. Bissett. She has the absentee ballot applications, and we'll provide those upon request so everybody can participate in the voting process. We want to make sure people are able to do so. The one thing that I did not put on my list is the Meet the Candidates. The board had said they wanted to do Meet the Candidates again for our new, our prospective board members. We do have 3 petitions, unless Toby got another one from 3 o'clock until now. We have 3 petitions.
No, only 3.
3. So we had Elaine Tracky Saltzman, John Guglielmo, and Amanda Durkee all submitted petitions to run for the board. So I will invite them. I had the date, but I closed my calendar. It's the Thursday. We did the Thursday before the budget vote last year, I believe. So I was trying to make it follow that same. So we'll have the hearing on the 10th. We'll have Meet the Candidates on Thursday evening. And I pulled it up. We had it at 6 p.m. last year. The 6 p.m. work for the board.
Say the date again, Dan. I'm sorry.
If I follow the pattern, it would be Thursday, May 13th.
And that time works for me.
And last year I built this document with your help. I can send that out to the board again to see if there's something different or the same or somewhere in between that you'd like to do.
That sounds good.
Moving down my list. That was my list.
All right, you were pretty quick there. Thank you. All right.
Can I ask a couple questions, Tom?
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to talk a little more about the merger study. Dan, I can say it, or you, but the next meeting that you have here in the June meeting is an important one. I would say probably one of the most important ones in terms of a committee review of the draft report. So that is the day that they will be coming out and summarizing the whole report. From that point in time, if you look at the timeline, in June and July, that draft is then sent on to SED for review. So I just want to make sure the importance of that date in June, that anyone that's interested in the draft report to be there. Am I correct?
Well, you're exactly correct and well said. That is when it's going to be out. The consultants have said that they're hoping to have the draft report out to the committee members, certainly at least a week ahead, so they can have some time to review it and develop questions over it. But you are correct, Todd. That is vitally important for people who want to be at that meeting, to hear about that draft report before it goes on to SED.
Dan, my next question goes to the summer school, and you may not have answers to this at this point, but it's funny. There's 3 times tonight where you've answered my questions after I've written them down within 2 or 3 seconds. But the first one, when you were talking about recovery earlier, the summer school program, will it be like I know you mentioned the enrichment program. We've gone through many years when we did have an enrichment in the summer. I don't know if it was when you first arrived or it was before that time when we had summer school. In terms of an enrichment program, will this be an enrichment? Will it be summer school for students that have not been able to be engaged throughout this whole pandemic? Or is it to try to get the students that may have lost touch with our school and to maybe try to better connect with them going back into a more of a full-blown school next year? Do you have an idea what that's going to look like this summer?
Yep. So it's, again, it's in its infancy, right? So there's still conversations to be had. Conceptually, Todd, it's all of those things, but it's targeted at different grade levels, right? So when we talk about, we'll call it traditional summer school, where kids need to make up courses so they can get credits, we're talking about that kind of model in our high school. And we have, over the past few years, participated in a shared summer school for middle school and high school students through BOCES from another high school and or middle school. So we're looking at that option, but we're also trying to provide some additional supports where if that is online like it was last year, although they're hoping to have it in person, last year it was online, and we worked through a local high school, and we found that students did not engage with the content. So if we're working with an online high school from a different school district like we have in the past through BOCES, we're having initial conversations about, can we have some rooms here in our building where the high school kids come and report, so that they have a supervised place to conduct that study that's being provided at another school district through the traditional summer school format that we have followed here at Fort Edward. When you get to that elementary and middle school, and again, this is in its infancy. There's a lot of conversations to be had, especially in the elementary school, with enrichment versus other types of things. Really, my personal opinion is that enrichment is a better way to go with those younger students, to keep them engaged and get them reconnected with our school. Not that we don't need to do that with our high school and junior high students, but we've got that whole credit barrier that we're running up against, right? We want students have to gain credits to graduate from high school, and we don't have that in the elementary school. So a lot of work to be done, to be perfectly honest. I know there's some old models, and there was a conversation with a few folks from the Teachers Association in FETA cabinet, just that we're looking to do something, and they shared some information about what they used to do. We're just trying to make it work because we've never been in this situation before.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm glad you're bringing it up right now, and I'm hoping that we can get them back into the school even this summer, because definitely the remote's not going to work. But thanks for your efforts.
Thanks, Todd. Okay. Treasurer's report is in the Board of Education packets. We went through those reports in finance. I don't know if anyone had any questions, if Charlene's still around, but please let us know if you do. Okay, moving on. Mr. Galano.
Hello. One of the things I was going to talk about tonight, obviously, is we're looking at our summer and looking at planning, but there's still a lot of questions with it. But we're definitely planning for any scenario and what will work. How can we use, or how can we access our funding to help our kids? But first, this week was our New York State ELA assessments. Today, we were able to get grades 3 through 5 all tested. Later this week, we'll get grades 6 through 8. And they did well in the ELA assessment today. Our teachers did a great job proctoring. Our kids did a great job, gave a high quality effort on the assessment. But as we move forward for the rest of the year, we're looking at not only that, but our grades that we're going to have in the next trimester in the elementary or in the quarter in the high school. We're looking at our iReady. We're looking at all those benchmarks and seeing where our kids are, so that way we can make these decisions of which kids should really be focused at looking at those summer school opportunities, whether it's summer enrichment, whether it's summer school, and really trying to get those kids caught up so that way they're doing well next year. We've had some students that have struggled with online learning, and we're looking at every possible way where we can engage them and engage them in a way that's meaningful, so that way they can stay with their peers and continue to be successful. In the high school, we've had the fall season 2. We've had many great athletic opportunities for our students this year. Our high schoolers have had that opportunity to compete on teams, while our middle schoolers are having the opportunity to compete within intramurals. So they still have those access to coaches, those access to their fellow students, and getting those relationships that are so important. You know, those pieces of being part of a school. And that was great to see over the last couple of weeks. And then as we move forward in the spring season and our spring sports. With our third quarter grades that were sent home, I also enclosed a letter for all of our middle school and high school students. And it spoke about a 5-week recovery program, which is something that we're providing for our high school, our middle school and high school students. And within that 5 weeks of the fourth quarter, our students are able to contact their teachers to set up a recovery program that is for that student. And we're looking for all help possible in terms of helping our students reach out, as our teachers are also reaching out, so we can maximize how many students we're helping and getting them back on track. It is not too late to have a successful year. Even now in the third quarter as we start the fourth quarter, but there's some work ahead for us, and our kids and our teachers are ready for it. but that letter hopefully is a little bit of an extra boost for our community to be able to help our kids to have them reach out. But the deadline for that is May 6th. That's our 5-week report for those kids to get some extra work in. Obviously, we're looking at summer school and summer opportunity as well. And we'll look at all avenues with our summer school opportunities. Third quarter obviously just ended and we had that sent home. I'm going to be posting our successes, our academic honors by the end of the week. So that will probably help flood our website a little bit as well with the pictures of our group from the art awards that we heard about earlier. Also, we're looking forward to our next Board of Education meeting where we can honor 2 students, 2 of our seniors, our valedictorian and our salutatorian. And I can say who they are because they already know, and I'm sure many of us already know, but on the next board meeting, we're going to have them here so that way we can have the board properly honor them. But our valedictorian this year is Benjamin Colvin, and our salutatorian is Lillian Newell.
Awesome.
And
Great student.
that's all I have.
Thank you so much, sir. Any questions for Mr. Glarno? Thanks for the job you're doing. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a tough year and you're new to us, but I think you're doing a great job, getting great feedback from the students and everyone. And appreciate the work you're doing, John.
Thank you.
All right, buildings and ground report. I don't know that I saw a report. Maybe I skimmed over it. Is there one in the packet?
Yes, there was there should, I believe I put it in there last Friday. There should have been, I know I received one from Craig. I don't see him on this evening, but there was a report that he submitted to me that I thought I had uploaded for the board to see.
I might have missed it.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on that report? For Dan, I guess, since Craig's not here. Okay, all right.
I will say that it's we're down a few people in the buildings and grounds area, and it's all hands on deck here to get through the next couple of weeks, as we got a large grounds project that we have to take care of, which is our baseball and softball fields. Yeah. So later on in your agenda, you have a motion to approve a substitute building maintenance worker. That's because we have a building maintenance worker who is going to be out for about at least 5 more weeks, and I'm just preparing for it to possibly be longer. So that person started today, so hopefully the board is going to approve that appointment retroactive to the beginning of the day. But if not, we can certainly have a conversation about it.
Okay. All right. All right, no questions. Moving back to discussion items. Thanks for having James and Tony here. That was informative, so thank you.
And then I put school calendar on there, calendars, because I put the dates, some recommended dates for school holidays to use, unused snow days. And there was one item where I'm asking about June 18th. I should have indicated that was for us to recognize Juneteenth, which was a new holiday that was enacted last year. But I want to be fully open with the board. You are not, because it falls on a Saturday, you are legally not required to give a day off on that Friday. But what I would say is that I think it's important that we do so to support the principles that stand behind the reason that holiday was enacted. Again, that's one man's opinion. It certainly is at the board's discretion. But I wanted to make sure that you understood that. You don't have to next year in the proposed calendar. You do have to, because it falls on the date when you statutorily are required. So it falls on the 19th, and when a holiday falls on a Sunday, you are required to recognize it on the following Monday. The way the law is written, it's a very interesting way the law is written, and all school districts have been dealing with this. Many in our area are absolutely recognizing Juneteenth. There are a couple that are not. And again, I'll just say, One man's opinion on it is that if we have the ability to recognize it through the use of our unused snow days, I think it goes a long way to support the principles behind the reason that holiday was enacted. Beyond that, there are a couple things on the calendar that are typographical errors. So if you have it up there, I had the emergency release day in the correct order on the listing on the right-hand side, but I had November 13th. Well, that's a Saturday. Thank you to Toby for noticing. So that should actually say November 10th is the early release day. That follows what our BOCES is doing. And then down where I counted the days for each month, for the month of November, I had only counted 17 days. There are actually 18 days of classes in that month, which would change your total number of pupil days from 180 to 181, and your total days at the bottom from 183 to 184. So when you're ready to act on that, I can pull it up if you need me to, so you can see it in writing. I'd be asking for you to act on approving that calendar, knowing that I need to make those changes I just discussed.
The total days fall within our needs. Okay, gotcha.
Correct. And it does leave, the calendar for next year does leave the opportunity for your next leader to have an additional superintendent's conference day in exchange for one of those pupil days. You have to have 180 total pupil days, and those 4 conference days count as pupil days. So you've got sufficient room for snow days in there, and a new superintendent could trade off a pupil day for a 4th conference day. Your teacher's contract allows for teachers to work between 180 and 182 days. So it meets all the obligations of the school district, the calendar that's proposed.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'd like to see that change in the beginning in September. I know we just started that with the 2 staff days early on. I think the teachers really appreciate that.
And I did that did come out. I met with as we meet every month, as long as we don't have a weird month where it falls on a holiday, with the FETA cabinet. And we did discuss that, and certainly last year we moved all 4 to the front end for a very specific reason. The group, including me and Mr. Gardner, felt that 2 was a good place to start. But when you see the motion about the calendar, it will also say it empowers the superintendent to make a change if case school has to open late. We don't know what the world's going to bring us, and so I put that in there so that we don't have to have a special meeting to make small adjustments, I would say. Reorganizational meeting. Time to start talking about dates for that. By the time we meet in May, I'll throw out some dates for you, and or Toby will. But if I look at that calendar, July 5th is the first Monday. Just know that that means that will be a school holiday for most, actually for all employees here. Since the 4th falls on a Saturday, people will not be working on Monday the 5th. So I don't think that's probably a good day to schedule for your reorganizational meeting. Likely you'd be looking at the 12th, or if you wanted to do it that first week, you could look at the 6th. Unless you want to have a discussion about what you want to do right now, which you certainly can, or we can do it next month.
What's the requirement, Dan? There's a requirement that we have.
Yeah, there is, and either the 6th or the 12th would be within that. I did not look up that wording again, but you're able to set that date within those parameters, and we would look to do that at the next meeting. If you want me, I can look up that language and send it to you with some recommendations.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next meeting. I appreciate it.
And the annexation building and garage, I sent in one of my weekly updates. I think it was 3 weeks ago, a draft report from the Needham group. That's our risk management group. And I also let you know that the Historical Society had reached out, and previously they had reached out about possibly obtaining that property. if you take a look at that risk management report, you can see that we're moving in a direction where there's some pretty costly renovations that would need to take place for those two buildings out there. And there's certainly some other things you need to consider about maybe wanting to try to transfer ownership of those buildings and a small portion of the school property to the village or the historical society or something. But they've approached us a few times. I met with Mr. McCarty and the gentleman who taught elementary here for a while, Pete Williams, last summer, and they spoke to me about it. And since then, I heard from the Rogers Islands folks as well about wanting to use it for storage if we were able to let them do so.
I spoke to them also, Dan. I spoke to Paul and a couple of other ones, and the town's also interested. And I think the Historical Association really wants it, with the understanding that if the village and or town could take it over, since they have obviously a greater ability for grants and access money to refurbish those buildings, but they're still very, very interested and want to expedite this thing if they can. So I will make some connections too, and I'll get back to you.
Any other board members have anything on that? Knowing that I would recommend that you try to transfer it to another Fort Edward entity.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for quite some time, and the drama club uses that for storage, and it serves a great purpose for that. There's a lot of room in there. It's been cleaned up before the construction project, so it's in a lot better shape than it had been for quite some time. So yeah, I think it's a win-win. Right now, from what I understand, they store a lot of their records below the floodplain, which is always a precarious situation. So I think we'd be lending, it'd be a great thing for folks to be able to use that building for good.
All right.
Dan, currently our records are in our building near the cafeteria. Nothing's in there anymore. At one point we had our records there as well.
So we have very little out there. I think when I went through it last, there was some drawings from previous building projects, but every set that I found, I sent to Tetra Tech to have them digitized. So they have a pretty comprehensive set of digitized building drawing records. So there's nothing out there that we go out to get, Todd, anymore. When Michelle needs something or Toby needs something, I'll let Toby maybe speak to it. Everything we have here is either in the vault in the basement or in our record storage area in the basement here at school, all above the floodplain. But I guess not above a leaky pipe, but above a floodplain.
Yeah, I put old retired teachers, their personnel files are stored over there and down in the basement.
But nothing in the annex, Toby, right?
No, I don't put nothing over there.
Okay.
There's some old yearbooks in there, and I'm sure there's some memorabilia in there that might be worth holding on to. Someone can go through, but yeah, there's not much other than that.
Okay, so I will. I'll reach out to Mayor Traver. And did somebody say at the town too? So should I reach out to Lester? Just send him an email saying, "Hey, we're looking to do this."
Yeah, the last conversation I had was where the town was mentioned. So they may be looking, because the village and town store theirs in the same building. So they probably all want access if that space is going to be available.
Got it.
And that'll get another grant drawing fund possible from those guys.
And we're all okay with me using the term we're looking to transfer ownership, not just give them permission to use it. We really want to transfer ownership.
Well, that's the only way to get stuff done as far as repairs and things like that are needed. So I think that has to happen in order for those things to happen, I think.
It's a money pit.
That's just the land then. The parking lot itself, I know that's our parking is very, very limited, especially with student parking. So that whole parking lot would still.
I think, Todd, what we would say is these two buildings and these two parking spots or something like, try to, they need to park a vehicle someplace. And I went out and walked it. And between the two buildings, depending on what they would have to do to upfit it for ADA compliance, I think there's enough room to have two parking spots directly between the two buildings.
Dan, have you ever looked at the deed when that was turned over, that original property that's on? Because I think actually, I think that's dual ownership in that driveway that comes up, and some of that parking lot went with the original. So we'd have to go look at that.
Yeah, I have not looked at the deed for the
Just-
building.
I didn't know. You never know what you're doing next. So you did it all.
Yeah.
I think that might be the case.
Well, you know what I would say is I think we'll cross that bridge when we get a little bit closer.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a possibility. That may be already dictated to us. So
yeah,
maybe we'll go.
Makes sense. All right, so I will do that. And the last I had on discussion, and I apologize for monopolizing it, but the National NFHS, I forget what it stands for, but it's high school sports. They have reached out and offered to provide 2 Pixelot cameras, and that means very little to you folks. But they're cameras that follow the play by themselves. And streaming of our athletic events has gotten popular. And I did attend, along with the Adirondack League, multiple schools, a webinar or a Google Meet like this on this. And they provide them free of charge. But I don't want to enter into an agreement without talking with the board. We don't ever pay them any money. But what you do when you sign on with them and get those free cameras is you turn over the streaming rights to them. And then they sell subscriptions to people so they can watch things, which first I said, it would be great to have those cameras for free. But I was, in retrospect, thinking, I'm like, I hate to ask somebody's grandmother to buy a $30 subscription to watch the basketball games next year. So there might be a better way to do it, but I wanted to make sure I brought it up, and at least we could have a couple of comments about the possibility. And if you guys tell me, yeah, go ahead and sign, great. If you tell me not to, great. I just didn't want to do it and have next year somebody say, what do you mean he signed this thing that makes grandma have to pay $30 to watch the basketball game or the volleyball game or the football game or whatever games?
Other schools are doing it.
They absolutely are. Yeah, they absolutely are. And there's also there's other formats when you get a little farther down the road that you can use where it costs the school money up front to install stuff, but it's free to push out to people. So there's 2 models on this, but I wanted to just get some feedback on this one so I can either say yes or say no and move on.
I think also, Dan, is should try to get the students involved. If you take this out of the students and our student body, our faculty, and all that, and then it becomes more, for other companies to make money on it, and it's difficult. I mean, we looked at going in and watching some of the football games to pay $10 for a month to maybe even just watch that one football game. Again, I think we have to look at what we would like to use it for. It's great to have that option, but if we can do it ourselves, it'd be better.
Yeah, I agree with Todd. I mean, years back we had FETV. I mean, we had a student club filming our games, and why can't we have them, get a club together for students to do the same thing? And then our students are involved, and it's instead of, just like you said, making people pay to watch our kids play. I struggle with that.
Yeah, I agree with both Todd and Chris. Anyone else have anything to add to the discussion?
I've also spoke about having a TV studio. None of our old principals or superintendents ever wanted one because they didn't want to be in the media, but I know Dan's different. But to have even an in-house studio with students running it every single day.
Great idea, Todd.
Dan, can I just mention one thing about the reorganizational meeting?
Sure.
I'm on vacation the week of the 5th. So is it possible to have it on the 1st of July? That way you're still here that week prior and could help get everything together?
It absolutely is possible to have it on the 1st as long as the board's willing and able. Yeah, so I'll look at it. We'll send out some dates, Toby. So I'll make sure that you and I talk too. I didn't mean to leave you out of that conversation.
No, but
I apologize.
I know there is a certain amount of days that you do have to have it within.
Yeah, but the first absolutely works. The first works. We've done it on the first before. So I'll look at it. We'll send it out, and maybe we'll try to shoot for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to say no to NFHS, but many schools in our league did sign on for it. So if you're trying to stream a game basketball game from District X next year that they're hosting, you're going to have to pay to see it. So sometimes, Todd, when you said $10 for one game doesn't make sense. The thought was if 8 schools were using it, $10 a month makes sense because you can watch whatever you want. But for now, for Fort Edward, I heard loud and clear from the board that we're a no-go on letting somebody monetize those viewing rights.
I just think it's more about the student participation and that learning that can go on with the students doing it themselves.
I agree. And this year that can't occur because of COVID. Really, we've got Lorinda's our number one. She's there every night doing the games. But I think that with what we have, we can provide at least the quality we're providing this year. And I'm not watching our games from the outside. I'm watching them from the inside, so I don't know what they look like from the outside.
I think they look great. The kids love it too. The kids are watching the replays and all that, and watching themselves, on the screen. So I think it's going well.
I've availed myself. I think they're pretty good. And as a matter of fact, I've congratulated those guys for doing such a nice job.
Dan, I just have one more thing on the discussion agenda. And if I don't ask it, I know at least 2 seniors are going to bop me in the head. So just some clarity. I think I know the answer. The students are talking about their trip and their prom and the ability to have kids from the outside schools, obviously their respective boyfriend, girlfriend, come to the prom. And so far that's a no-go. That's understood. I guess the students are asking the question of, there's so much intermingling with sports, teams playing each other, things like that. Why doesn't that transfer to social gatherings? I'm sure I know the answer, but can we just kind of put it to the record?
Yep, sure. So actually the answer is changing on that. And we've got an item later in the agenda to approve multiple events for seniors down there. So we are looking at there being guests from other school districts, but there's some pretty specific requirements. They're going to have to come with a COVID test, or they're going to have to be fully vaccinated, and that comes right out of the new guidance that was released. Was that last Friday that I sent that guide? I shared it, and I did the telephone call and all of that. So there is some guidance. Everything now is starting to be contingent upon having a COVID test within a certain number of hours, a rapid test within a certain number of hours, or a PCR test within a certain number of days. So that's kind of where we are. That being said, we don't have access to COVID tests anymore. So that cost and that responsibility is transferred to the individuals. So that's something that John and I have been talking about. He and I attended. Was that last Friday, John? We were at the senior class. Yeah, last Friday we were at the senior class meeting. I was a little bit late, but I got there for the end. We need to get the word out to everybody on those senior events. So the prom/ball, whichever word you'd like to use, the trip to Yankee Stadium, and the trip to Twin Pines and Bolton Landing. All those are going to be predicated upon the students providing negative COVID tests within a certain number of hours for the one type, or days with the other, or being fully vaccinated. And there's no way around that. Those are the rules that we have.
Okay, I think where it might have been unclear. So if students from other schools meet those 2 requirements, either have a COVID or the full vaccination, they are permitted at this point.
Yeah, and there's one additional requirement. That's that guest sheet that the high school office needs back from the visiting student school.
Right, that's always been in effect, right? Okay.
Yeah, right.
Cool. I appreciate taking the time to answer that. Thank you. Okay. All right, next up. If no one has any objections, I would like to get a motion for consent agenda A, B, and C.
Motion.
Chris?
Seconded.
Who was the second, Todd?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I heard Joe.
Yeah.
Aye.
Are we all good?
So let's just make sure we've got our number. Toby, we're at 7 now.
Yeah.
And also, I asked Joe joined the meeting, and I forgot to say this, Joe, before. Joe joined the meeting at 6:35, just so everybody has it in their records.
Okay.
So we were
I believe
oh
we're 7-0. There's no one abstaining or no no's to that vote. Okay, so we're 7-0. Okay. All right. Need a motion to approve the CSE CPSE recommendations as included in the board packets. Need a motion.
Motion.
Joe and Ella, I believe. Is that
Correct.
right? Okay. Any motions? Any discussion?
No discussions.
Getting late in the day. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I believe we're 7-0. If there's any nays, please say so. Okay. All right. B is moot. Need a motion to approve the first reading of the following new policies: 6570 remote working, 3520 extraordinary circumstances, 7150 remote learning, 7551 revised sexual harassment of students, and 5633 gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms. Need a motion.
Motion.
Joe?
I'll
Second.
Think I got Todd. Any discussion?
I'm glad that they used for the sexual harassment of students digital content. It was good that they put that in there with what we're seeing in the news recently.
Yeah. All right. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining or any no's? No, we're all good. 7-0. Okay. D is moot. Motion to accept an anonymous donation of $1,000. Donation was made to support the offering of athletic activities for Fort Edward students. Need a motion.
I'm motion that. I think somebody else did. Ella was first.
I think I got Ella, and I'll go with Todd, because that's
Thank
what I saw. Any discussion other than to say, did we get a similar donation, anonymous donation at the last meeting? I seem to recall that happening.
We did.
Thank you very much to this donor. That is very welcome and very appreciated. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 7-0. Motion to approve the contract with Technical Building Services, TBS, for temperature control and building automation services for the period of April 1st, 21 to March 31st, 2024. Need a motion.
Motion.
Chris.
Second.
Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I'm going to go with 7-0. Okay. Motion to approve the contract with Advanced Therapy to provide physical therapy and occupational therapy services for the 2021-2022 school year.
Motion.
James.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Rep Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're all good. Any no's? No? Okay. Motion to approve the MOA between the district and the Fort Edward Teachers Association concerning the prorating of cheering stipends for the 2020-2021 COVID-adjusted Fall 2 sports season.
I'll make the motion.
Todd?
Chris.
And Chris? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds like 7 to me. Okay. Motion to approve a refund of real property tax in the amount of $1,072. Christopher and Claudia Mansman, per the application received from the Washington County Office of Real Property for parcel 16314-4-25. The refund is owed due to a clerical error in the town assessor's office. Need a motion.
Motion.
James.
Second.
Joseph. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone abstaining on that? Just because it pertains to it? No. Okay. Passes. Okay. Motion to adopt the district's 2021-2022 budget in the amount of $11,096,764 as stated on the budget notice and property tax report card. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
That was a toss-up. I'm going to go with James because I saw his hand. Any discussion on this one?
Can I amend that to say actually adopting of the property tax report card as well, unless that's somewhere later in the agenda?
Now we can amend it. You
want it to be amended? I got to read that one. So how do you want it amended?
That you're actually adopting the property tax report card.
Okay. So it's a motion to adopt the district's 2021-22 budget in the amount of $11,096,764 as stated on the budget notice, and we are adopting the property tax report card. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, that's the motion. We have two. It's been amended. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone, any noes? Anyone abstaining? Okay, so carried. All right. Okay, motion to approve the Fort Edward Recreation Department to use the school buildings, grounds, and buses for the summer 2021 program. The use will be contingent upon the passing of the 2021-22 budget, adherence to all required COVID protocols, and any summer programs that are offered by the school. Need a motion?
Motion.
I think that was Joe, yeah.
Yes, Joe.
Yep.
I'll second it, Tom.
Todd, second. Any discussion?
Just so everyone knows, we may or may not use it. It's just what we need to avail ourselves of because we're going to be COVIDized. So it'll be a COVID modified program this summer. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to look because I'm waiting. I'm in contact with the state and the county trying to figure out this whole thing. So I just want to make sure we have it available if we need to. Buses we'll probably have to use, but again, that'll be different than before. But just as long as we do have an outlet to get there. So I thank everybody.
James, I want to thank you, man, for doing this. And I know you were passionate about getting it back up this year after not being last year. So thank you for your persistence and all you do for the kids, man, over the summer. I know it's very appreciated by the village and everyone that participates.
And it's very much enjoyed by myself and my staff.
I've seen it in your pictures. So, yeah, that's great. Okay. So
Last year, they realized what they missed out, not having it for a year.
I've heard a lot. I felt bad for the kids. Felt terrible.
Awesome. So no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I abstain. I got to abstain.
Yeah. But we have two movements on that. Dan, correct?
Yeah, you had Joe and Todd, if I got it correct, and you had a 6-0-1 vote.
One abstaining, right? Okay, great. Thank you. Motion to approve a school holiday on May 28th due to the remaining balance of snow days pending at least 2 snow days being available as of that date. Need a motion?
Motion.
Yes.
Can you lump these days together? Can you lump the motions together? No.
No, I wanted to separate just to distinguish the
date.
The other one. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I could have done those two, but I'm sorry. So yeah, so I need a motion for the holiday on May 28th.
You had Chris.
Yep.
Need a second. Joe.
Listen, all in favor?
Oh, who did you get?
Aye.
All good? Okay. We're good on that. Yeah, I could have lumped those two, Joe. I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. Motion to approve the school holiday on June 7, 2021, due to the remaining balance of snow days pending at least 2 snow days being available as of that date.
Motion.
Thanks, Joe. Need another?
Seconded.
So Todd.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you came in kind of deep there, Todd. Didn't recognize you.
I just want to, before you go, I just want to make sure I say this. So if there's only 1 snow day left when June 7th rolls around, we will not have a holiday, we will have school, because I'm
Right.
going to save a day for Juneteenth.
Yep.
I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All good? Okay. All right. Motion to approve a school holiday on June 18th, Juneteenth, due to the remaining balance of snow days, pending at least one snow day being available as of that date. Motion.
Yep.
Was it Joe?
Yeah.
Joe and Chris.
Yeah.
Joe and Chris. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Any abstaining? All right. There we go. Let's see. Motion to approve the 2021-2022 school calendar. The calendar is approved, empowering the superintendent to adjust as needed to accommodate the possibility of any unforeseen issues delaying school opening in September 21, to include the amendments that Dan spoke of during the meeting.
Make a motion.
Ella?
Second.
Joe? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All good? Okay.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Motion to approve the following senior class activities. Students and parents will be required to sign off on appropriate permission and indemnification paperwork for students to participate. The activities are all dependent upon COVID and safety protocols required of the individual venues, the Fort Edward School, and any other applicable entities. Senior prom ball on June 5th, 2021, or alternate date if necessary. Yankee game trip on June 6th, or alternate date. And Twin Pines, Bolton, New York day or overnight trip on a date to be determined. Need a motion.
Motion.
James. Todd. Any discussion?
I just want to say that I am ecstatic that we're going to be able to do something for our kids this year. And I'll say that while I'm knocking on wood here.
Yes. Continue to knock. Yeah, and I think that's great. And these kids are committing to going to a prom on the 5th, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to the Yankee game. So I know we didn't think about that when I was going to prom a long time ago, getting up at 6 in the morning. So so I think that's great. And thanks to Mr. McGurl as well for that awesome availability of his property. So, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? No. All right, so moved. Okay. Personnel. Motion to approve Heather Havens as Chemical Hygiene Officer for the 2020-2021 school year.
Motion.
Chris?
Second.
Joe? Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to appoint Nicole Schilling to the position of cheerleading advisor for the 2020-2021 school year. The rate of salary is negotiated with the FETA using available donations. The effective date of the appointment shall be set by the superintendent and communicated to the employee in writing. The superintendent does not set an effective date. The BOE appointment shall be considered null. Upon board approval of this item, the superintendent will set the effective date retroactively to March 29th, 2021. Need a motion?
I'll make the motion, Tom.
Motion.
Second.
Todd and Chris. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, looks good. 7-0. Okay. Motion to appoint Jeff Rescott to the position of modified boys baseball coach for 2020-2021 school year at the rate salary as negotiated with the FETA using available donations. The effective date of the appointment shall be set by the superintendent, communicated to the employee in writing. Superintendent does not set an effective date. The BOE appointment shall be considered null. Need a motion?
Motion. Yep.
Joe?
Yep. Second.
Chris? You guys are busy tonight. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All good. Any noes or abstentions? No? Okay. All right. Motion to approve Paige Toomey to the position of modified girls softball coach for the 2020-2021 school year at a rate of salary as negotiated with the FETA using available donations. The effective date of the appointment shall be set by the superintendent and communicated to the employee in writing. Superintendent does not set an effective date. The Board of Education appointment shall be considered null. Need a motion?
Make the motion.
Motion, second.
And James. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're all good? No abstentions? Okay, good. Motion to appoint Michael Sharkey, effective April 19th, 2021, to a substitute maintenance worker at a rate of pay per the FESS contract, pending the completion of all required employment paperwork. Need a motion?
Make the motion.
Is that Ella? Okay, Ella?
Second.
Joe? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Well, good. Any noes or anyone abstaining? No. Okay. Motion to accept the letter of resignation effective June 30th, 2021 from Superintendent Daniel Ward.
Motion.
Chris.
Second.
James. Any discussion?
So I wanted to take a moment and just say thank you for the opportunity I've had here at Fort Edward. It means a lot to me. It really does. It has not been without its challenges to work here, but one of those challenges has never been a supportive board or a supportive community or a supportive teachers association or support staff association. So that it's been a fantastic experience for me. And all I can say is thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with you, to work with the students at Fort Edward, and to work with the community and faculty and staff that are here and working hard together to do good things for kids each and every day. And I'll end by saying I'm here through the end of the year. And I mean it when I say it. I'm committed to making things go well for our students right up until the end. And I'm committed to being a resource to you as needed, even when I might be working in an office 2 miles from where I sit right now. So I just wanted to say that. And again, I thank you all, and I thank all the former board members as well.
No, obviously, Dan, we appreciate the work you've done to this board, and it's been said many times. It's worth saying again. You really brought us to a collaborative point in that boardroom, which is very important, and you guided us on our missions and our goals. And you sought resources when we needed additional resources, and if you didn't know the answer, you found someone that did. And you've just been a tremendous asset to the board, and then of course to our district. I mean, you've done a great job, and everything we talked about in the interview as wanting to improve on, you've done a fantastic job in sticking with that mission. And we're sad to see you go, but we're very proud of you, and we congratulate you on your new endeavor. And I think Hudson Falls is going to be very happy that they made the decision they did.
Thank you.
All right.
Dan, again, just something quick. I've worked through my 15 years for superintendents, and I say by far, again, one of the most hardworking people in that position that I've seen. So I appreciate all the efforts. I wish you the best of luck up there. I think it's going to be really difficult to find a replacement for you. It always is, I think, in this interim type of position, but I appreciate what you've done. And this has been recorded, so all the board members know. It says that he's just up the road.
Yeah, we got you on tape.
Not far enough away.
If there are no further discussion points, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. With best wishes. Okay, that passes 7-0. Okay. All right. Let's see. I need a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters referring to negotiations with a specific entity, as well as the employment of specific individuals.
Tom, is there any public comments?
Oh, you know what? Thank you. I totally turned my page.
Yep. So I opened the chat up. So if anybody wants to post something in the chat, they can be recognized by the board.
I'll give it a minute just because I don't want to make the motion yet. Let's see.
Dan, this has nothing to do with the chat, but under the consent agenda, I'm going to go back. There was one revised board minutes that we had to revise. Is that happening this week? This board meeting, or you want to do it next board meeting?
So we'll do it next. I didn't know if it was a clerical error or if it was, because I didn't have the minutes. So
it was a clerical error. I had for Samantha Carroll to 3020 or 3031 instead of 2021.
Right. So I didn't know if the motion that the board had approved was based on the correct dates, and you just needed to change it. But if we need to vote on it, we can vote on it next month.
Next time. Okay.
Minutes.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we don't forget it.
Yeah. So Toby's right. In the minutes from the February 8th meeting, it incorrectly states that a leave for Samantha Carroll would be extended through 30/31. Although on our agenda item, it had the correct date of June 30th, 2021. So we're just not sure if it's a clerical error, if you guys took action on minutes that had the wrong numbers on there. So we want to make sure the minutes match. So if you can look at it, unless you already know, Toby, if you know, I guess the board can take action now, or we can wait and get it out to you in writing so that you have it for the next meeting, whatever you want to do, Tom.
We can move on next meeting. I think it's an obvious error, so it's no problem moving it forward. Okay.
If she's still alive in 30/31, she can have a job.
I know.
Yeah.
Let's see the chat. There is nothing in the chat.
Nothing.
Okay. All right. I need a motion to enter into executive session, discuss matters referring to the negotiation with a specific entity as well as the employment of specific individuals. Need a motion.
Motion.
Joe was one, and I think it was Chris the other one.
No.
No, no. Oh, I'm sorry. Joe and James. Board of Education members and other individuals invited to executive session are reminded that all matters discussed during executive session must be kept in the strictest confidence. All in favor?
Right.
Okay. Dan, I don't think we're going to be taking any action upon returning, correct?
No, there's no plan to take any action. That being said, the board can decide to take action if they need to, but I have none planned for you.
There's no intention. So, all right.
I'll send you a new link. I'm going to stop recording this. We will come back into this meeting to adjourn it. So if folks want to see us adjourn the meeting, feel free to hang out on the link because we'll be back. We're back.
Folks, thank you for all your hard work this evening. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Joe.
I'll take a second.
James.
Gladly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just for the record, Anita had to leave the meeting at 8:55 p.m.
Perfect. Thanks again, folks, for all the work.
Good
Thanks,
night,
Dan.
everybody.
Good night,
Good
Tom.
night.
Folks.
There's a good morning already.
Sleep
Quick
tight.
question, Tom.
See you later.
Are you guys opening up